Welcome to my crafting shed. You're here because you want to learn how to make a leaf owl, I see. I mean, pretty good choice, because who wouldn't want to make an owl made out of leaves? They're only made of 3 or 4 things, depending on what you're going to mount it on, and they're very, very simple to make. Something good for the summer holidays, potentially. I'm going to go through all the different bits that you're going to need, and then we'll get making. I'm basically going to make a whole one here and now, fresh with you guys. So we'll do the whole thing together. I reckon it'll be about 17 minutes, but let's wait and see. I'll have forgotten something, I'm sure. You're only going to need 3 leaves. 1 leaf is for the head. We're going to cut that into a circle. 1 leaf is for the body. I'll show you what we do with that. And then 1 leaf is for the wing. You don't want to choose green leaves because they will continue to decay once you've stuck it all together. It could look quite cool. It's just if you want this to last for a very long time, you're going to want to go for brown leaves. The other thing we need are some marker pens. I've got acrylic markers here. You could use paints if you wanted to. You basically need something that you're going to be able to colour in the leaf a little bit, just to add a little bit more depth. A pair of scissors or a smaller pair. Smaller the better, to be honest. I've just can only find the big scissors today. It's hard to say. And then a glue gun or something that's going to be able to stick things together. I'm using a glue gun, but if you've got another glue that you love, I'm sure you could try it. PVA might even work, but I'm sticking with my glue gun today. Should we get started? I've got 2 cameras, so you're gonna be able to see what I'm doing with my hands and on this screen. How very exciting. Right, here we go. So first of all, grab your smallest leaf, and this is the one we're gonna be turning into a circle. So you want it to have almost like a circle shape, or at least something where you're gonna be able to easily cut out a circle from it. It could be an oval, it could be a bit of an ellipse shape, but I'm going to go and try and do as best a circle as I possibly can. Now the leaves will tear a little bit as you're cutting them, but look, don't worry about that too much if it does. Just go grab another leaf. I think that is going to be fine. So that is going to be the face of my owl, that little circle there. So we'll cut that out. We're going to leave that there for now. Next, we are going to be cutting out the body. This is going to depend on which way your wings go in, but why don't you just all follow me today, and then you can figure it out another time if you want to do a slightly different shape. So I think for me and this owl, we're gonna go like this way around. So those leaves are gonna work like that. And we're gonna have the owl head here. So to create the body, we're just trimming off the top for now of this leaf, just like that. And then we're gonna cut this one a little bit more in this shape and direction, and then cut it down here. So it's kind of almost like a bit of a teardrop shape. This side's a little bit longer than the other. That's where the wing's gonna go sliding down there, and the head's gonna go in this spot here. So that's that piece done. Look, you can see it's gonna start to come to life a little bit, like that. Now we want the wing, which is gonna go on this spot here, kind of swooping down. So all we're gonna be doing is kind of, again, so things will split a little bit with dry leaves. So you're going to have to be a little bit generous with your patience on this one. That for me looks like quite a good leaf shape. A little bit like that. Maybe this can be cut a little bit more generously there. And then that is going to go on there to create the overall owl shape. That's what we're sort of heading for. Okay, let's clear this little space out. Hopefully it's recording up there. Should we just double check? We probably should, shouldn't we? It is recording. What a fantastic time. Now, the next thing we're going to be doing is sticking everything together. So I'm going to turn on my, what is it called? Not glue gun. What is it called? No, it is a glue gun. Yeah, I'm going to turn on my glue gun, give that a little minute to warm up. Right, here we go. So the first one we're going to stick on is the head. And we're going to leave a little gap around the top, and you'll see why, because we're going to have to do some trimming and some cutting in a bit. So we don't want to go all the way up to the top, but a good little squirt with the glue gun and then stick it on. I'm going to go about here. And like I said, we can cut it. So we've got a bit of scope if we go a bit wonky. And then the wing, I'm going to put about there, you see? That way, again, we can cut it around there. That's going to look absolutely stunning. So a little bit of glue on here. Oops. And then about there. That's it. That's the 2 sticks that we need to do until we get to the mountain. So I'm going to turn, well, the mountain, not the mounting of the owl, not a mountain. I'm going to pop that down there. I'm going to unplug my glue gun. Whoops. Now, the next stage is defining the shape of the owl a little bit more. So we're going to cut around the head first and give it a little bit more definition around there. So just bringing it all together. You might find that you need to do it in several sort of chunks. So like little snips, and then kind of pick up where you left off. Underneath the head, I'm going to go in a little bit and then kind of come back out and capture the owl's little breast. Kind of that shape. This one's looking around the corner a little bit more. I might trim that a little bit actually. It looks a little bit too much for an owl. It's very streamlined, this one. And then I'm going to do the same with the back. So kind of cutting it around there, bringing it up and round. And there. That is the outline of your owl. Now my leaf on the bottom, the body leaf on mine's got a bit of a curl to it. So sort of tucks in a little bit more, but I quite like that little shape. I think that is it. The next thing we've got to do is add the shading. Now you don't have to add colours to it. You might like the kind of organic colours of the leaves anyway, but I think maybe adding a little bit of shading just helps define it a little bit further, makes it a little more owl-like. So the first thing I'm going to do on mine is add the beak. And I'm feeling very inspired by the barn owl that I keep on seeing flying around outside. I've been seeing it go across those fields over there and then catching some bits. So barn owls kind of have this like almost really amazing eyeshadow. Like that. Maybe a little bit on the beak. And then I'm going to get a black pen to add the eyes. Kind of like little almond shaped eyes. Whoops. Whoopsie. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the beak like that. That actually might need to be a slightly darker colour there. Okay, and now I'm going to add the white plumage for the face. I found kind of eking out towards the edge like that looks pretty cool. And then like this. Kind of keeping that little V shape above the eyes. And you might have to go over some bits. That's the great thing about acrylic pens. You can do it several times to kind of help add a bit of definition. Going to just neaten up that eye after adding a little bit more brown up here. Maybe a little bit around the head. Just a little bit like that. Okay, let's add a little bit more neatness to that eye. That's better. And then just define this a little bit more. There we go. Now, Barn owls have quite white bodies, so I'm going to add white feathers onto here too. Give it a good old covering of white. I quite like using the leaves because you get a bit of definition underneath, which kind of adds a bit of like patterning underneath the pen strokes. Okay, that's kind of coming to life there. I'm just going to do underneath here because this leaf is curling, and I have a feeling as it dries it's going to get even more curly. Okay, and then I want to add a little bit more shading onto the leaf. So I'm going to go for, sorry, not leaf, onto the wing. So I'm going to go for a little bit of a kind of shading pattern on here. Just kind of dabbling it across. Not too much, but just enough to kind of give it a little something. And maybe I'll use a little bit of the grey on here too. That's looking kind of cool. There, just to kind of highlight that a little bit, and maybe a couple of flecks of grey on the body as well. Now that is pretty much it. That's your little owl made out of leaves. Now it's completely up to you with what you're going to do with it. Obviously with my ones I've mounted them on a stick, which again includes a little bit more glue and then putting it straight onto your mount. That's actually an old cloche base that I've been using. Maybe we should mount it, it'll look kind of cool, and then we can bring it into this one, and then there's 3 of them together. Right, let me go find a stick. I found a very, very short stick because this is going to sit just here underneath the other 2 owls, and then kind of in between the 2. It's going to wrap around those, and then it'll perch in that little space there. A little bit more gluing to do, and then I'm done. This bit of glue is going to go like that. So it is really quite low down, this one. Now, I'm gonna add a little bit of glue to the base of my owl. And then this bit's kind of a one shot, so wish me luck. That is gonna go in that space like that, just there. Ow. And that miraculously stuck up in one space. And then I have found it looks a little bit cooler, just covers it up a little bit. If you just put a little bit of a leaf over the base, just to kind of give it a little bit of something to hide behind. Sticky. Like that, just so you don't see the glue quite so much. Turn the glue gun off again, and that is my 3 little owls. My little leaf owls, my 3 little leaf owls hanging out together on their little plinth. I could actually put the cloche over the top, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it. I think it looks pretty cool.